He's over in New Zealand today. So, Hadley, can you tell me a little about yourself, and then we can get into talk about buying properties?
Yeah. So as you say, from New Zealand, I haven't spent much time in the States. I think I've been to Vegas and Hawaii have been the two stops which have both been very short, but plan to spend a bit more time there at some point. But yeah, based in New Zealand, I've got a real estate business over here that we started back in 2020. There's a big long backstory that goes behind that, but we can I'm sure there'll be some points where we can cover off on that as we go through. But we're basically growing from just myself to a team of 13 people over the last sort of 3 years. And then we do buyer's agency, we do project management and property management as well. So combine all our services together for our clients.
Now, I call it an orchard of money trees, but I guess you would call it a portfolio. Can you tell me why it's important to have a portfolio?
Yeah, it's really that thing of like the passive income becomes or mailbox money is really important for anyone that's trying to establish themselves. And you never know the day that you're going to need to fall back on it. Most people use it as a plan for retirement, but it's just that thing of like, if you can't go to work tomorrow, you've got some money coming in. If you decide that you build a portfolio to a certain degree or a certain level, and you're in your mid 50s and go, hey, look, I've got enough money coming in that I don't want to go to my job. I want to go and start something else. It just gives you options, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
Now, I like real estate, and I know you do too. Why do you think real estate's the best of it? Or do you even suggest even going other things as well?
I mean, the thing for me, it's the thing that I understand. It's the thing that I've always done. And so I've dabbled in the stock market, but I mean, the thing with real estate is you've got leverage. The other thing is like it's tangible, and you've got some control over what happens to it. You're not dictated to by a CEO of another company that you've never spoken to. The only downside of it is it's not as liquid as what stocks are. And so you've just got to be extra cautious and extra careful when you're entering into it to make sure that what you're buying is good quality and it's going to do what you need it to do.
I was always taught when real estate, you made your money on the buy, not necessarily the sell. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, 100%. You always make your money when you buy. If you pay way too much for it, or you get too emotionally invested at the start, then you generally tend to get yourself into trouble.
So what kind of, I'm skipping around here. So you guys, can you tell me how your process works? It's not much different than, I mean, it is a little bit, but not much different here in the States. You still got to do your diligence, I guess, and how it's all that.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, in terms of that is like the probably one of the parts where people stop is that they get so hung up on what should I offer? What should I do? In New Zealand, we put an offer on a property, offer gets accepted, then we have a time for due diligence. So we control the property without owning it. And that's the key bit there, is to making sure that you're doing your due diligence, to doing your building inspections, checking that the council files are as they should be and there's nothing untoward there, getting your finance in order. And it's still the key part of it is it's all very well to go and buy a property, but we need to make sure that we're doing the checks first. And that due diligence period's the essential time to be making those checks.
So as part of your service, do you help investors? You do that work for them?
Yeah. So we do everything from start to finish. So we'll sit down with them, strategically find out what it is that they want to do. Then we go to the areas that suit that strategy, and then the property is really the last thing that we ever look at. And I think the thing is, or the message is like, stop looking at houses and go back and figure out what your strategy is. Where is it that you want to end up? And then work through the process that way, rather than going, like for New Zealand, there's 40,000 houses on the market at the moment. Stop looking at 40,000 houses, go and figure out strategically where you want to be, what areas suit that strategy, and then go and look at the 100 houses that fit that, rather than the other way around, sort of pulling a needle from a haystack, hoping that you're going to find something.
Do you guys have a specialty, I guess? Are you looking at multifamily units? Are you looking at big complexes, or all of the above?
Yeah, predominantly multifamily, and then we also do like small developments for clients as well. So house, big section, secondary and third dwellings on the back of property. But it really comes down to the thing for us of like finding the right property for that specific client, depending on what their strategy is. So we're not just broad brush in terms of, hey, look, you should go and buy this because this is all we do. It's more so about strategically what's the most efficient way to get someone there.
Do you do groups, as in, let's say I have X amount of dollars to invest and you need a bigger amount? Do you get people together, or is that something you don't do?
No, we don't touch the syndication side of things at the moment. I've done a little bit of it in the past, and it's just got a little bit messy. And so yeah, I tend to just stick to people with either their partners or their families, really the main people that we deal with.
Okay. You said that, do you help the people? Let's say I don't understand what I need. Do you help them kind of figure that out based on what they have available?
Yeah, 100%. So we'll sit down with them and go, right, cool. This is where you want to end up. You want to end up with X number of dollars, or this is the end goal. And half the time, what people think they need and what they want and what they need are two very different things. So it's about establishing that with them to go, right, cool. This is where we are today. This is where we're going to end up. And here's the steps along the road that we're going to have to take to get you to where you want to be. So we sit down and map that out with them. And that's in conjunction with their mortgage broker. And then from there, really is a case of going and then buying those assets to fill those gaps.
You answered one of my questions already. I was going to ask about the other people's money part. Well, you said mortgage. So do you help if somebody doesn't have a lender? Do you help guide them and make a suggestion on who they talk to?
Yeah, we have referral partners across everything that we do. So brokers, accountants, lawyers. If people come to us without the team they need, then we also help them out with that as well.
I guess my next question is pretty self-evident, but why is an buyer's agent in this case, more advantageous than going by yourself? Am I really going to save money by doing it by myself?
Yeah, I think there's probably a combination of things. There's the saving money aspect. There's also the thing of, like, we're in the market every day, doing this every day. And it seems to be one of the things that everyone's got an opinion on housing because, they've lived in a house. And then as soon as we have like a legal issue, an accounting issue, we generally tend to go to a lawyer or an accountant. As soon as we have a problem with a house, or we're looking at a house, we go to a family barbecue and our drunk uncle's got an opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we go, Uncle Jim said this is what I should do, so that's what I'm going to go and do. And he hasn't bought a house for 20 years. Or we go and talk to our parents about it, and our parents give us some guidance around it, but it's not necessarily the best advice because they tend to project their own fears and want to keep you safe. And which generally tends to be the wrong advice unless they're in the industry. And then secondly, with that it's a thing of, like, most people trade their houses every 7 to 10 years in New Zealand anyway. And so it's a case of that they're in the market once every decade. And so how are they supposed to know what's going on a daily basis?
Now, 25 years ago, I was in that camp of do it myself, save the money. Yep. And I can tell you, over the 25 years, I more than paid for a buyer's agent, which would have been a whole lot better off if I just done it to begin with. I spent more than what you guys would cost for doing the due diligence. And just finding those properties, that's a real big of the game, is finding.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a guy that just that's his full-time job, on the phone talking to agents, trying to find the right property, sifting through them. It really comes down to the old adage of, like, you look at 100 and you put an offer on 5 and maybe you get one of them. And it's a numbers game. It's about relationships. And if you got the time to do it, great. But to do it well, very few people, unless you're doing it full time, have got the time to do it.
Are you using any systems, software, AI, anything that these days to help you speed the process up?
Yeah, so in terms of the AI side of things, it's a big part of what we do. I think if people aren't adopting AI at the moment, they're going to be left behind. It makes you far more efficient. I think the biggest thing with AI is that it has changed how things work, but from the perspective of, you tend to be working with more high level stuff. So before, where we could go out and spend half an hour looking through documents, and you could have a bit of mind numbing time just to go and do that thing. You haven't got that same opportunity now, because AI just gives it to you, and then you've got to go and just check the facts and check that what it's told you is true, and validate that, and still check all that side of things. But it's more high level cognitive work that we do now, as opposed to being able to escape to some lower level cognitive stuff through the process.
Now, back when I started, I still have them. Some people would call them shacks where they live. I have a coach in Massachusetts, and we were looking at my rental property portfolio, and he said, well, is that really a house there? Yes, in Missouri, that's a house. Compared to, something like that probably costs $200,000 in Massachusetts. Yeah. My question, I guess, when I'm bringing that up is, do you, as your company, do you kind of limit who you're going to take on and what type of property you're going to look for? Like, you got to be able to invest, say, $200,000, or I'm not going to be interested in. I'm not the guy for you. Do you have a set parameters?
Yeah, for that? There's minimal limits on it, just because we end up taking a chunk of people's deposits if they're too low, and then with that, then we have to push them into low growth, really low socioeconomic areas that just aren't going to get them the results. So there is a limit, and there is a cutoff for people. You go, hey, look, you're better off to go and tackle this yourself rather than through us. It's the same with like people that come to us with wanting us to find properties for them to flip. It's like, well, by the time you take out our fees, the selling agent's fees, your taxes and things like that, there's no margin in it. So yeah, we don't take on anyone. And yeah, it's really a case of being a little bit selective.
Sure. Now you're in for the long run though too, right? You're now from the beginning, you help people, and then once they invest, and you manage it for them or whatever the project shows.
Yeah, so we started out just as buying, and then we had a client that said to us, "Hey, look, I've got all these properties. If you start a property management company, I'll give you 10 to start off with." So that was sort of the starting point for us. And I went home and I told my wife that, "Hey, look, we're now property managers," and she was thrilled, to say the least. And so she loves it now, but at the time wasn't quite so thrilled.
Sure.
But yeah. We take it through from start to finish for clients.
That I would say was that if my listeners are listening and you're interested in doing that, that's a big bonus right there. Because just because you're a landlord doesn't mean you want to be a managing landlord. So be the owner, not the operator.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece is that people see it as saving money, but then you have tenants that don't pay rent, you have damage on your property. And it's probably the quickest way to become emotional about your investment properties is to manage it yourself and go, "Oh, I just live down the road, so I'll just manage it." But then either something goes wrong, they don't look after the house like you would, and so it tends to be that thing of like, I can't believe that my house looks like this. But if you have a property manager in place, they pay the rent, things aren't getting destroyed. They might not be as tidy as you are. It's just life, and it's part of. It's part of renting out a property.
Not everybody lives the way you do. Just
That's
understand
true.
that. Let's go back to the due diligence a little bit, because you mentioned that. So there's other factors you look into that, like the management fees. When you look at the purchase price, look at your management fees, your interest rates on your mortgage, if you had to have one, vacancy rates. What kind of maintenance, or do you have a maintenance program that you implement as part of your protocol?
Yeah, normally what we try and do is get a decent renovation done on the property when we start to minimize that maintenance as we go through. Normally we work off sort of 5 to 10% of the rent for maintenance. Depending on the age of the property and how much work we've done up front for it.
That makes sense. Is there any other thing I'm missing that you would recommend that people need to evaluate?
The big thing for us is like the council files. There's a big thing in New Zealand about like consented work and unconsented work. So we get a council file, and the council signs off, or the local council signs off your building. The
city council or like legal council?
City council.
Okay. Yeah.
So city council signs off on your building, and then it's really important to check that what the city council's got and what you've got in terms of a house are the same thing, because it becomes really difficult to sell that property again later on if the next person checks it and the house looks quite different to what's on the file. So checking those things for us is really important. Building inspections to check the structural integrity of the house is really important too. And they're really the main things alongside your finance as well.
Not counting taxes or depreciation, I guess, for those two things, but what kind of return are you looking for, or is that kind of dependent on the investor?
Depends on investor. So in terms of like from a gross yield perspective, we sort of work from 6.5% to 10%.
Yeah.
And then net's obviously different because of different city councils have different land taxes and things like that. So 6 to 10 from a gross perspective is generally where we tend to sit.
Do you ever look at cash on cash return, or is that just strictly?
Well, it depends on the financing structure of the deal. Obviously, if you're 100% financed, then your return on, or your cash on cash return is infinite because you've got nothing in there.
Well, I like good stories. You got a really good success story of somebody coming in and you found, I've got a lot of stories about rental properties, but I'm sure that they're not as fascinating as some of yours. Do you have any ones that you've just found a diamond in the rough and it really turned out to be a good one?
Yeah, we've got one that we bought for a client. It was on the market for 1.7 million, and I told him about it when it came on. I said, look, this needs to be our next purchase, but at 1.7, it's way too high. We need to get it sort of closer to 1.2, 1.25 would be perfect for us. So it was on the market. It fell over under contract 2 or 3 times, and then about 7 months later, it came back down to 1.25 in terms of listing. We ended up getting the property for 1.15, I think it was, off the top of my head, 1.15, 1.2, somewhere around that. And what that was a main house with self-contained unit attached to it. Then there was a 3-bedroom house in the middle. Then there were 2 1-bedroom flats at the side. So that was we'll call it 1.2 for easy maths. He's had to put about 250 into it, which gets him at about 1.45. And then we're just about to get it revalued, and it should value up between 2.5 and 3 now that we've subdivided the properties out. And that's over sort of a 3-year time frame to get the process there from start to finish. So that's probably, in terms of like return, one of the better deals that we've done. And obviously it's a client that we've had for a while and keeps coming back. So the problem is you set the bar that high that he thinks every deal is going to be the same.
Making some notes here. Don't forget my question. So here in the States, each different state's a little bit different as far as being landlord friendly versus tenant friendly. And I wish they'd just be fair would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
Would you say New Zealand's leans one way or the other as far as if you have trouble?
We were very landlord friendly. Then we had a change in government around 2020 that became very tenant friendly, and now we've come back to it. We've had another change in government, and we've come back to very neutral. So in terms of with New Zealand, we haven't got the 3 tranches of government. We've just got the one central government that oversees the laws. But the issue that we have with that is, like, every 3 years we have a new election. And then it seems to swing from one extreme to the other, and then they put one lot of laws in, and then they get a majority. Then the other side gets a majority the next time around, and they swing the laws completely back the other way, and then completely back the other way. So at the moment, I'd say we're probably neutral, but who knows what will happen with this year's election?
Sure. Was that part of COVID when it went back to? Yeah, I was wondering. Now, most of my listenership, or pretty much all, that's not true. I got some people overseas. I'm pretty popular in the Philippines, and Germany. Is there any advantages to come to New Zealand? Do you have any, I guess, investors that aren't in New Zealand, put it that way?
Yep. Yeah,
international investors.
The main thing for New Zealand is that there's no land tax, or there's no stamp duty. There's no capital gains tax. So it's very, very tax efficient here in terms of that side of things. For foreign investors, there's quite a bar to jump over to get into New Zealand in terms of being able to purchase, but provided you've got the cash, there's some amazing properties that they can definitely get access to.
Is the dollar stronger right now than New Zealand currency?
I haven't looked recently, but I think we sit at around 60 to 70 cents US. So you get sort of 1.5 times
Yeah,
your money when you come over here.
that's awesome. And then you get
Yeah.
if you guys invest over there, then you have a reason to go visit and write that trip off on your expenses.
100%.
There you go. Over time, how long you been doing this?
I've been in property myself for about 20 years.
Yeah.
The company that I've got now set up just in COVID, so we're coming up to year 5 now, or August will be year 5. And then I was working for another guy doing something similar for the previous 4 years before that. So yeah, and the buyer's agency side of things for about 9 years, and then property itself about 20.
Anything different you do today than, or you're definitely doing today you didn't have back then?
Yeah, the first property that I bought, I'd never buy again. It was a big block of land that I hadn't done the due diligence on. Made some bad business decisions, didn't get the right advice behind it, and basically just left me in a world of pain, and had to. I ended up moving to Australia for 10 years just to try and break even on the thing, and life philosophy turned into, if I just work harder, I can make some more money. And the harder I work, the better off I can pay this mortgage. So when I came back to New Zealand 10 years ago, was basically a case of, right, how do I find some people that are going to show me how to do this properly, rather than my own attempt at things.
So get some help.
Yeah,
People know
100%.
what's going on.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, right? There's mistakes that you make where if you'd paid someone some money at the start, you would have had infinitely better results, which was me. I mean, we sold the place 10 years later for, like, I think we had a mortgage on it of like $850. And then we sold it for $1 million minus agents' fees. And then there was way more than 100 grand that we'd spent on the place over the years as well. So it was upside down after 10 years for the sake of, spending some more money and getting some proper advice.
I hear you. Well, Hadley, it's been a pleasure today. And if I've got investors that are interested, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Best place is on Instagram at Hadley Nightingale. And if you shoot me a message there, and happy to have a chat and see what we can do. All
right. Well, Hadley, it's been a pleasure. This is Chris G., Hard Hatchet CEO. Reach out, always grow that money tree, and then take that money tree and make it